Hey everyone, today's video is about pollinators. Trevor, our Director of Land Protection, made his way out to Discovery Preserve the other day to check up on things and make sure things are okay. And that little nature preserve, if you're not familiar with it, is right here in Bay City on Euclid Avenue. There's a little parking lot and a small trail, and there's a couple cool little activity spots, but it's a nice place to go for a little neighborhood walk if you're looking to get outside and you want to have some space during this time of social distancing, but you want to get outside, get some fresh air. You could certainly stop at Discovery Preserve. There's a little platform that overlooks the pond. You'll probably see a lot of wildlife there right now, probably ducks. And other waterfowl will be making their way into our pond, so that's pretty cool. But Trevor's going to use that as an example to show you what a pollinator habitat, a true pollinator prairie restoration looks like in the wintertime, and kind of give you an indication of what you can expect if you try to do something like that in your own place. So take a look and have a good time.
Hi everyone, this is Trevor Edmonds, the SBLC's Director of Land Protection, and right now I am at the Conservancy's Discovery Preserve on Bay City's west side on Euclid Avenue. It's about a mile south of our office. Discovery Preserve is actually a property that's owned by Bay County, but we hold a lease on the property and we operate it and maintain it as the Discovery Preserve. And it's a 12-acre learning landscape for people of all ages. There's a nature playground here, a pavilion with a little free library, and there's also a quarter-mile paved asphalt pathway that goes to a open water wetland with an overlook, which is a great spot to see waterfowl, especially this time of the year as things are starting to return to the area. But right behind me, as you can see on the sign here, is track there. One of our pollinator gardens, which is on the site. We installed these a few years ago. And kind of the idea behind these gardens was to provide some habitat for pollinator species in the watershed. One of the other nice things about it too is that part of our regular maintenance of this property during the warmer months is mowing it, usually once a week, maybe every other week, depending on how warm out it is and what the growing season's doing. But by installing these pollinator gardens, we were actually able to get rid of turf grass and provide beneficial habitat for pollinator species and other species of wildlife. So if you kind of look behind me here, right now it doesn't look like much, just kind of a lot of dead standing plant material, which we actually like to keep up in the case of these gardens over the winter, because it does provide some habitat for different species that overwinter here, provides some nice cover. And some of the other, you can kind of see them here a little bit. I'll pull this in front of me. These are actually gray-headed coneflowers, or what's left of them anyway, and a lot of these species actually provide seeds in the seed heads for different birds that hang out over the winter to eat. But installing these was actually a relatively simple process, relatively speaking. This is a pretty simple thing for a lot of homeowners to do if you have a little patch of land in your yard that you want to convert to beneficial pollinator habitat. We know of a lot of good sources for seed if you're looking to do this. Right here in Bay City, Bay Farm Services on the west side of town is a great source of local seed. And as far as more specific Michigan genotypes, you can get seed from the Michigan Wildflower Farm, which is located just outside of Lansing. You're able to order seed online. They have a great site that has a lot of information about prepping land for doing seeding projects. And if you're more interested in purchasing native plants, there's also a great nursery that's in the not too far from Michigan Wildflower Farm, actually, called Wild Type. We've used them for a number of different planting projects. Got all kinds of different species, common milkweed, butterfly weed, purple and yellow coneflower, and even a lot of different types of native grasses like big and little blue stem. But basically, to get these gardens going that you can see behind me here, like I said, this was turf grass at one point a few years ago, and basically what we had to do was just kind of get rid of the existing grass. So we did a light disking and kind of a slit seeding technique on these just to sort of break up the turf after mowing it really low. And then by slit seeding, or just doing something to kind of break up a little bit of that existing turf and expose some soil, we slit seeded the native wildflower seed right into the soil. In other cases, if you don't have a slit seeder, which is a piece of equipment that can often be found at a tool rental shop in your town, you can also just use something like a garden rake just to expose some of that soil before you broadcast the seed into it. And then using something like a lawn roller just to have good seed to soil contact is a good thing too, to ensure proper germination. But with the seed mix we use, which we got from Michigan Wildflower Farm, it was about 20 different species, and some of those came up in the first year. And the nice thing about this project is that in the years following, we've seen other species come up over time. Some of the species in the mix do have to stratify, which essentially is a process where the hard outer casings of the seed break down over time. So whether they overwinter or through other natural processes, that casing breaks down and the seed is allowed to germinate. We've seen that over the last few years, so we've gotten a whole different variety of species that are coming up in these beds now. We see a lot of black-eyed Susans, columbine, bergamot, let's see, purple coneflower, and then we also have Canada wild rye and little blue stem in these beds as well. But like I said, we do like to keep them a little tall over the winter in this specific location just to provide some additional overwintering habitat for birds and small mammals. But these are here for you to view, and if anyone has any specific questions about how to get a pollinator planting started on your own property, feel free to contact me, Trevor Edmonds. You can contact me at TREVOR, Trevor at SBLC-MI.org, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about how you can get a pollinator planting going on your own yard or in your own property. So thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you in the future videos, and thanks again for checking in.
Thanks, Trevor. That was interesting. I think we learned a couple cool things. I think first and foremost, the thing that we've learned is that if you're going to plant a wildflower prairie restoration like those, you have to ensure that there's going to be good soil contact when you plant it. That's the number one reason why things that are planted to cover vacant land in Saginaw, for instance, like white clover and things, that's why that stuff doesn't succeed. It doesn't get good soil contact and continuous soil contact. So as he mentioned, we use some agricultural techniques like slit seeding, but also you can just use a garden rake and then roll it with a garden roller or a lawn roller to make sure that it gets good soil contact. We also learned about the fact that sometimes seed casings require a winter scouring in order to bust that seed casing open, something that Trevor referred to as stratification. So you want to make sure that you're giving your restoration a time period long enough to allow that to happen over several seasons. Also, it's kind of interesting to see the diversity of plants change over time. And you got a good look at what it kind of looks like in the wintertime. We do leave that tall standing stuff up to provide overwintering habitat, but we do mow that stuff down and cut it all out to allow the fresh new material to grow up in the spring. So pretty interesting. Remember, you can get the seed that Trevor talked about at Bay Farm Services locally, or you can get even more mixes available from the Michigan Wildflowers, which is also a great resource. So good luck with your own pollinator restorations this spring. It's a good way to use up some space that's just turf grass and not really beneficial to anybody. If you've got a big chunk of lawn somewhere that's in the back section of your property, and you're just mowing it unnecessarily, and you want to do something for the global issue with pollinators, certainly think about doing a wildflower prairie restoration, and you can contact us at our office. I'm sure Trevor would be willing to walk you through it or provide you with some additional resources. We find that these restorations are beautiful and productive and interesting. They're good for wildlife, and they require so little resources to keep them going as opposed to mowing a lawn, for instance. So that's about it for now. Take care, and we will talk to you guys in the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.